Powering on the machine. Press to turn on. When we need to choose a pattern, you select the mode using this button. This is hot mode. This is fan mode. This is sleep mode. This is cooling mode. When we switch to cold mode, next we need to set its temperature. Press the button in the top center to set the temperature. We can make adjustments by moving it up or down. Set it to 24, a temperature that suits you. In cooling mode, we need to set it to below 24 degrees. Only then will this machine work. So we set it to. When set to 24 degrees, it refers to the time when the ambient temperature is comfortable for the human body. But when the temperature inside our channel, external NTC temperature. This is the external NTC sensing probe. When placed outside in the ambient temperature, when a temperature of 27 degrees was detected, this fan does not spin. Because the temperature in the external passageway is higher than the temperature we intend to set for this room. So, it won't blow hot air inside. That's why the fan is stopped. It is currently in cooling mode. During operation, you must first set the ambient NTC temperature to below 24 C. Only then will it work. Another thing is that it will switch in cold mode. It's when you set the temperature to 24 degrees. Then, the external NTC temperature probe detects a temperature below 24 degrees. When the temperature drops below 24 degrees, this fan will start working. Operation begins when the ambient temperature is close to the set temperature. This is the highest wind speed. When there is a significant difference between the probe temperature and the ambient set temperature, its fan spins relatively slowly. The reason why? When the outside temperature is below 18 degrees, or very low, so the ambient temperature we measured is 25 degrees. If the fan is blowing too fast, it will quickly blow cool air into the room. It will significantly lower the room temperature. So, when the settings are close to this point, the wind speed is at its maximum. When there is a large temperature difference, the fan temperature is relatively low. Next, we'll set the heat mode. We'll set it to heat mode. Then, set the temperature. The ambient temperature is currently around 26 degrees. We'll set it to 27 degrees. When it's 27 degrees, we are now because the outside temperature is low. When I manually raise the probe's temperature by touching it, wait a moment, and that fan will start spinning. The temperature is starting to change now, because the temperature detected in the environment is already higher than the set temperature. So, it needs to achieve balance through rotational speed, blow in the hot air. The temperature currently perceived by the human body, it should be around 30+ degrees. We currently have it set to 26 degrees. So, its wind speed and rotational speed aren't very high. We can configure it again. The temperature is a little bit higher. This one is a bit higher. However, the temperature of our hands might be lower than that temperature. So, it doesn't really rotate much. The wind speed is relatively low due to the large temperature difference. There is no difference in temperature between the front and back of this fan. Therefore, when setting the fan temperature, you have to rely on the default gear setting. It has 3 settings. It is a very quiet setting. Then, the only option is to manually adjust the settings for the upward and downward airflow speed and volume. The H gear is the highest. Then, manually adjust it according to your own situation. The fan speed setting is manual. Sleep mode. Another setting is the sleep mode. The sleep mode defaults to level 2. You can also adjust it yourself. However, we can only adjust it up to the highest setting level 4. This is sleep mode. In sleep mode, which also operates at the fourth setting, the airflow and fan speed are very quiet. Then, this screen will turn off. It only starts up when you press a key at random. It turns off its screen automatically after a certain amount of time. It won't emit light that interferes with sleep.